You are both from PayPal, and you work on a tech level. That's what I was told, at least. So, but before we dive into your questions, because the whole format basically is just so you know that we collected questions from the community towards PayPal, and PayPal thought it was a good idea to let these two on stage and talk to me. So that is what we do. But before that, let's have a quick look, because you prepared that, right?
Absolutely.
Where PayPal is coming from, technology-wise. So we have a bit of a quick history lesson, and then we get to the juicy stuff.
All right.
Great. So, is my mic on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's great. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. So how did this all start, right? So we actually started kind of like mobile first, if you think of it, right? So it started with those Palm Pilots that you can see. So the original idea of what PayPal was, it wasn't called that, it was actually called Confinity back then, was to just, transfer money, but, you were like a really cool kid and you had a Palm Pilot, right? And you were actually transferring money from one person to another via infrared, right? So infrared, I know that's...
So basically like playing Snake on the Nokia phones.
Exactly.
Who had a Nokia
that.
phone with Snake back then? Okay, who did use PayPal back then? Thought so. But I mean, if that's
so many arms in the air, so many arms.
Me neither.
And you actually just exchanged this payment token, right? And actually, at the end of the day, you would just go home, log on to confinity.com, and exchange effectively that token to real cash. And that is pretty much the basic idea behind that. And effectively, the name of the website just changed, and PayPal stuck, right?
Yeah, and the fun fact is, one of the founders, Max Levchin, he added a demo to this website, because even by Silicon Valley standards at the time, not many people had a Palm. So he added a demo to the website, so you could send money by just using the website. And if you look at this now, this is how it all started, and it's roughly 25 years later we are sitting here. So
basically,
weird idea.
This idea of having a demo on the website, basically, do you hear that tone? Is there a feedback loop? Sorry guys up there, I'm giving you troubles. I can just scoot away a little bit from you, like that.
Bad influence.
But yeah, so this basically evolved then into PayPal as it is today. Great. Do you have other slides for me?
Of course. So when I originally joined the merchant services, not PayPal, but merchant services where we deal with the likes of you, this is what PayPal looked like in HTML form. And we were in the process of introducing an API to Germany, but right now when I started, this was my job. And if you think this looks easy, it does, until you start to sort out complex problems.
When did you start?
I'd say 2007. So it's a long time ago, indeed. So I contribute most of my gray hair actually to these early days of HTML forms.
Nice.
All right, but obviously there's more to come.
Yeah. And in 2005, we had our first fully-fledged API for direct payments. And shortly after that, the next API, because you always need a next API, was Express Checkout. And Express Checkout effectively allowed you to do a lot of stuff, name value pair style, or using SOAP, right, which is this service-oriented XML flavor. And actually in Germany, we also had lots of additions to the product just for GyroPay, which back then was such a big player that, that actually warranted lots of API keys and values. And it was pretty much the first time that you could really, do things in real time and just, exchange money, immediately get an answer from the API itself, rather than through something like what we now would call webhooks, like IPNs in the past, or PDT.
Especially PDT, our favorite PDT.
Absolutely.
Look, Express Checkout API, what you see here, I mean, some of you might remember this is the SDK actually on the left side, the old SDK that we published, and this was version 3.2, I'd say.
When was that released, roughly?
I think 2005 initially, but in Germany 2007, 2008, so we needed some extras to it. So, and like, this is still working, and we are still maintaining it, and we are currently at version 220. I mean, it's not continuous, but we are maintaining roughly 150-ish versions of this. So that's pretty spectacular from a maintenance point of view. So.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next one, you can see that's a REST API, obviously, and I'm getting good memories of this one. So the REST API, when we started to use it, was probably around for a while already, but it went largely unnoticed because it was kind of uncommon at the time. But we made a decision when we built PayPal Plus in Germany, which is, or was at the time, our next big thing. We decided we go REST, and that was brave. Because REST at the time, we didn't know it. It wasn't exactly mature, and as we found out, it lacked certain methods that we needed. On the other hand, I'm quite happy we did, because quite honestly, how many people can say they contributed to an API design of a global payment giant? I can say this now. And it's not that I'm an expert or something, but we said, yeah, we need this, so go for it. And I'm probably preaching to choir here. Once you start REST, you will never go back to the likes of SOAP or MVP, so it's just much easier. And one fact, and this is something we wanted to share, when we started with REST, we started using Postman. So, and this was the first time we could not only demo stuff, but also share code samples. So we customized code samples and shared with our clients. And that's a huge step. So what started at the desk of the two of us, more or less, is now a global standard in PayPal. And PayPal is now one of the biggest users of Postman globally. So I think that's a pretty amazing story.
Who's using Postman?
Nice. Yes. And most people are quite happy when they get a Postman sample rather than a PowerPoint from us. So I'm hoping that we did the right thing there.
Obviously, yeah.
All right, so V1 wasn't perfect.
But V2 certainly was. So effectively, like the biggest milestone, I guess, for all of us was the release of Orders V2. There also was an Orders V1 that we don't really speak about because nobody's really using it anymore. But effectively, Orders V2 introduced lots of new features. We effectively prepped our own product to be capable for marketplaces. And marketplaces, if you think of it, right, typically means that you put items in your cart from different sellers, right? So you had to multiply those payments all the time, and that really only then became possible through that. We also integrated like all of the learnings from previous APIs, and God knows we had a lot of them, and also actually feedback from experts like you in the room, right? So we learned a lot about effectively creating APIs and just making them fast, streamlining how you would actually use them, because PayPal at least supports so many use cases that you really have to really know what you're doing there.
What do you mean? What do you mean when you say use cases here?
Yeah, use cases is a really important word at PayPal, meaning that you can, let's say, use something like just raw credit cards, or use what we would call alternative payment methods like Ideal in the Netherlands.
Let's have a look at it, sir.
Oh yeah,
There
yeah.
you go.
Thank you. And this actually, opens up so many possibilities of what you can do. You might want to send shipping address data or not. You might want to enforce that the customer can change that or not. All of those things actually intertwine and can make it quite complicated if you think of it. So unifying how you'd use that as a developer and can just, get going, that means a lot.
So basically what you would call a use case is like an integration of other services that then can be used.
It's how you would actually present that to your customers in the shop, right? Do you just want to display one payment method, a lot of them? Do you want to store them? Do you want to use something like pre-authorization first, capturing a few days later when I get your money immediately or not?
So since we have a little bit of a history lesson here, when was V2 released roughly?
V2, just something like 4 or 5 years ago, I believe, right?
Okay, so that's pretty recent. Okay,
That's quite recent.
This is the current API, so this is the current stack we operate on. We did obviously make a few adjustments, so edit stuff like payment sources and this kind of stuff that allows us to process cards and this kind of stuff. So, but because at this stage you might think 3 APIs in 15 years, that must be the easiest job in the world, sales engineer at PayPal. So there are a few more things, and we just didn't mention them because they are kind of sidearms of the evolution that, not all that, but yeah, we do have a lot to play with at the end of the day, so it's not that simple.
Is there something there on the slide currently that is especially noteworthy, hard or something? Because I see things like peer-to-peer which in my world is something you don't associate with payment that much.
Yeah, actually, I did a lot of projects with P2P, and we introduced that for messengers, right? So and there were a few messenger softwares that actually allow you to do that and send money, similar to what you'd now see in, let's say, WhatsApp or in other messengers, to just send money in line, and that's what we did there.
Nice.
When you look for complex APIs, like there's a bunch of them, like Billsy, a lot of people might remember. I worked at Billsy for quite some time. So that was a beautiful API, but it was not the easiest one to integrate, put it this way. So it was very detailed.
But beautiful.
Beautiful. MVP, but...
Exactly.
All right. I think that's it for the slides.
Okay. So thank you for that little dive into history. We have some questions from the community, right? And of course you knew that before, but you didn't. So still, I don't know the answers, by the way, which is exciting. So the first question is, and that's a nice one, does PayPal actually have a banking license, or are you just some, I don't know, not bank?
A not bank, that's
I don't know.
Yeah. We do have banking licenses where it's necessary, right? So in Europe, we do have a European banking license, a fully fledged one from the CSSF in Luxembourg, right? And we also have to adhere to local regulation, right? It's not like you have one banking license and then you're a bank. That's not how it works. Every country does its own thing, obviously, right? I mean, we're quite glad with the EU unifying a lot of that stuff, right? So you wouldn't have to do this per each country, but we still kind of do that for each country, right? So at least in Germany, we also have to adhere to any regulation, or let's say discussions that we have with the BaFin, for example. That's certainly something. And in the US, we do not have a fully fledged banking license because we just don't need it for our business model. It's just not needed. But we do actually have to adhere to, let's say, legislation that was brought, state by state. Some also on the federal level, but not so much a banking license per se.
So the question is not, do you have one, but do you need one in the current country we are looking at?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you are a partial bank, depending on the location of operation. Okay, so next question. Also, what is used more by customers? And wait with the answer. PayPal Classic or PayPal Express? Who thinks it's PayPal Classic? Okay, who thinks it's PayPal Express? Okay, the rest doesn't care. Thank you. It's roughly the same. What's the real answer here?
Yeah, that's actually, it's a weird question. It's not a weird question. It's just a question that made me giggle a little bit, because what we now call PayPal Classic was traditionally called PayPal Express Checkout API. So it's kind of the same from a technical level.
Okay.
So I'm guessing the question is more towards shortcut versus the traditional payment selection page. And there the answer is, it depends. Like, it depends on your use case, on your vertical. If you have a lot of, I shop one item customers once in my lifetime in your shop, Express is probably the way to go. And there will be a higher share for Express Checkout. On the other hand, if you're a regular buyer in a shop, it kind of makes no sense to use because you have a shop account. And there it wouldn't make sense. So there's no generic answer to this. And
yeah, and you also, you do not track it globally, like you could now say, okay, this is the whole number.
I don't know if we track it, but we kind of moved away. Like, historically, PayPal always had this button, like the yellow button, or if you found the code blue or black. We evolved quite a bit, so we moved into a full stack operator. So there's basically, PayPal is now only part of the offering. You have these smart payment buttons, pay later, card processing, Apple Pay, Google Pay, all the likes. So it kind of shifted a little bit. Anyway, so.
All right, so another question. How many people work at PayPal?
Yeah, we obviously had to look that one up. But globally, it's something like 20,000 people. In the German office, it's around 180. And just the people working, let's say, in tandem with the Shopware folks on the plugin, it's 6 people that, not going to say all day work on the Shopware plugins, but a lot of their time.
But you're here for us if we need you.
Yeah, I'm one of those 6.
Okay. So while we are at numbers, how many transactions roughly per day are you processing?
This, of course, I didn't have to look up because I knew it by heart. No, joke aside, I checked what we published last year was 24 billion transactions per year. and I didn't do the math, somebody else, so if it's wrong, it's not my fault. That translates to about 65 million transactions a day, but it doesn't take a genius to tell it's not every day 65 million. There will be January the 1st with probably 10 transactions, and there is Singles Day in China or something that is probably exploding. The thing is, it doesn't matter. Like, we designed our system to an extent now that you basically...
Yeah, so basically,
It
if
scales.
any system knows how to deal with DDoS attacks, it's yours. Basically, okay. Nice. So another dev question. We are running a little bit out of time, but it's okay, because you are also here after our interview, right?
Absolutely.
So you can get a hold of these people. You're at the booth, I think.
Right next to the bar, so best location.
Exactly, right next to the bar. So, but which programming languages? I knew that I would stumble upon this. Which
We knew
programming
We
languages
practiced a lot.
are you using? Yeah.
So in the past, it was actually C++. So a lot of our, let's say, things like banking connectors and more back-end stuff is still written C++, but we're migrating a lot of that. And all of the more front-end-ish stuff, especially the API pieces, the actual implementation of what our API is done in Node.js at this point in time, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. One last question, and you need to hurry a bit. What does your testing scenario look like? Because PHP unit and stuff was just on stage. So
Obviously, it depends who you ask. We are solution engineers, so our testing is relatively
Hands-on.
good one, hands-on. No, like, listen, of course, there's the normal best practices on development, like you have these development cycles and try to avoid bugs in the first place, which is, as you probably know, impossible. There's a Q&A team, so they spend all day, 24/7, on testing before a product even hits Sandbox. There is a lot of testing going on in the background. That's not done by us, but actually by a team that does nothing else but testing these.
So
Probably
basically,
hundreds
the
of
red
use
team
cases.
is
Yeah.
okay.
So, but obviously, when it comes to us, like when it hits Sandbox, it comes to us. So then we start to play with it. And when we build something with, for example, Shopware, obviously you build it, you test it, everyone is happy, then you start testing properly. And you try to use, like, the happy path is always easy.
Sure.
You try the unhappy path, then you find out if you got it everything. And at the end, there's a certification list. So we have a checklist where we try to ask all the right questions and try to tick it off. So, because you tend to forget, like, maybe there's something here, there's something there, or something. So that's why I list.
So the short answer would be it looks professional. Okay.
Try our best.
Great. Awesome. Okay, so according to my notes, we are out of time, but I thank you very much for being here. Round of applause.
Thanks for having us,
Alex.
guys.